All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Just so everybody knows, we have two people teleconferenced in. We have Ginny McKinnon on one phone, and we have Suzanne Tremblay on the other phone, so we do have two teleconferences in. So can you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you. This is going to be a rather brief meeting because we want to make sure everybody can go down and participate in the Selectmen's Town Deliberative Session at 7 o'clock. Alrighty. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of 1/24/11, please?
I'll make that motion.
By Diane, seconded by Hank. Any corrections or amendments?
I have a little correction.
Sure.
Under the HR section, if you can change Mrs. Cloutier to Ms.
Actually, it's on page 4 as well as towards the end of the document as well.
Just for that, I'm taking your present back.
Actually, I'm just going to update the two people that teleconference in. We have all our teacher reps here. We have Jen, Hank, myself, Philip, Diane, Kent, and Lori, as well as Stacy. Denise is taking the minutes, and Ray is here as well, just so you guys know. And we do have a public in the audience.
Okay.
Correspondence folder, I'm going to send it around. It has our substitution reports.
I need to vote to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
Any other corrections? I'm really trying to get this meeting going. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Yes.
Yes,
That's unanimous. And Suzanne?
I abstain.
Okay, 801, motion passes. Accommodations, good news?
No, would you like I do have Mountain View Middle School, last week had their spelling bee, and 5th grader Jacob Olson beat the 8th grade finalist to be the representative for Mountain View Middle School. So congratulations to Jacob. Good luck to him as he
Excellent.
goes forward.
Any other?
I wanted to thank the FBLA for doing their babysitting. We had 40 students, 40 children from the age of 15 to 9. And we had an average of 6 or 7 high school students with us during that time as well. So thank you for the opportunity, and we'll see you next year.
Well, thank you very much for doing it. It's greatly appreciated. I know the
Definitely,
community's
thank
been happy.
Did a great job. Thanks.
Any other accommodations, good news? Seeing none, we'll go right to public comment. Public comment? You just need to announce your name.
Helen McLean, 54 Piedmont Road. I'm here tonight on behalf of the teachers and staff at Mountain View Middle School. I've been given a letter to read, and so
I'm going to interrupt you. I did not interrupt last week. There is a specific process for the teachers to follow. They have, in their employment contract, have a specific process to follow, and I believe that they need to encourage it, they need to follow it. It would be inappropriate to try to circumvent that process. I'm going to strongly encourage them to talk to their principal, or if it's regarding the principal, they can then bring it to the SAU and then bring it to the school board. That is the proper method to
Okay,
voice complaints on that.
my question to you on that, though, they brought a complaint, has anything been done
We have-
since 2 weeks ago when they
That,
sent the
I will
letter?
talk to that specific complaint 2 weeks ago. Oh, the one specific incident that they put in it was they said some teachers were allowed to show a movie and some weren't. I personally looked at it and found out that what occurred is some teachers selected a G-rated movie, some selected a PG movie. Our policy allows only for G-rated movies without parental consent. So those teachers were told to please pick a different movie, and if they chose not to find a G-rated movie, when it comes to specific instances, I'm going to use an analogy to kind of explain why we're having trouble being able to take any action. You're a teacher on the playground. A group of students come up to you and point out at another student and say, that student's a bad student. And you ask, can you give me specific instances, specific examples? And they don't do that. It prevents you from being able to discipline that child. This has been occurring as well. Specific complaints have not been, grievances haven't been filed for us to address, to go through the process. And that's what needs to occur. if that doesn't occur, you're really handcuffed in the ability of the administration and the board to take action on what they feel is their concerns. And I think the problem's been compounded by somebody in the audience that has made allegations that have been proven to be false and is yet to retract them. You know, when you claim that a principal got 12 grievances in this district and that principal didn't even work in the district, that's an issue. You have to be responsible if you're gonna take the right to speak. So I think that's compounding on the problem and exacerbating it.
I think from what I get from it, like I said, I'm here just as a representative, trying to help out the teachers and the staff. I've been there, 4 children through the system. I'm saying, if there's such a huge issue, why isn't the board making any effort to contact the teachers, go in and have a conference with the teachers?
I will say, we discussed it in non-public, and because it was in non-public, I can't divulge what we've instructed the administration to do or not to do at this point. But I will stress that if specific instances can be documented and brought to the attention so that we can actually investigate something, that would seriously affect our ability to do something. Right now, we haven't been given that opportunity. To have general grievances shared publicly, it's not something that we can actually go in and discipline or react upon.
Well, I know I can say, there was an issue 2 weeks ago. I wasn't here, I was on vacation, but I did see where they had said the turnaround with the teachers, and you questioned their statistics that they have.
Yes,
I do
75%.
have in writing what they have. Is that something I can say or not say?
No, I'm actually, because of the fact that you said you were going to talk on behalf of the teachers, I'm not going to allow that. I debated whether to allow it last time, and I probably shouldn't have allowed it. It was a gray area, and I cautioned on the side of, but with review and having the chance, I'm not going to allow those public comments. They have a specific process, and they need to follow that.
So I guess I'm sitting down, I think it's
Thank you.
sad. I think it's sad that there's not that communication between the two.
Can I add?
Sure.
The teachers have a process and they know the process. They can't skip over 6 levels of the
But
process.
apparently, they're not going through the process because they're afraid of what's going to happen.
Well, going through the process would be to me, and I've had not an issue with teachers, so they know the process and are very well aware of it.
And there's been no intimidation, and there's been no repercussions for
See, I
bringing something to our
disagree, but
attention
That's, my
on
own,
that.
that's my own. As a parent, I
You don't wanna
disagree with
Watch.
that.
All right, public comment is now ended. I'm going to standing
I
committee
have a
reports.
comment.
Public comment has been closed. Standing committee reports.
You just referenced me. in
I
your
said
comment,
public
sir.
comment is closed.
Wow, freedom of speech in America is closed.
So point of order,
No, what's the point of order?
I believe that it has to be open for 10 minutes according to the policy.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's to be a fact or not. I don't know if that's our policy or not. That's specifically 10 minutes.
It may be 15, but I think there was a period of time, because we recently reviewed it.
Let's see if we happen to have a copy here.
I don't have the current one, I have the first 15 minutes. I don't know if this is the current one, though. We have to go on.
Yeah, I don't know if it was amended, but it does say the first 15 minutes will be set aside for citizens to address the board.
Doesn't say that it will be open for 15 minutes. This is the time slot that may be set aside.
They may be set aside. It doesn't specifically say that we have to have 15 minutes of talk. And this is an abbreviated meeting because we're trying to close it early enough to be able to allow people to go to deliberative session. So if you want to appeal my decision, you're welcome to.
I will.
Standing committee reports. Admin and finance? You have a manifest to bring?
Yep. I'd like to move a manifest of $1,516,232.92.
I have a motion by Hank, seconded by Diane.
Okay, the highlights are payroll, $455,548. Payroll tax, $142,270. Benefits, $487,797. Special education for regional services and educational center, $37,310. Special ed transport, by a provider, $106,002. PSNH, $19,085. The SAU payment, $79,000. And Fred Fuller, not to be left out, $15,633. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor of the motion?
A lot of money.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Ginny?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Yes.
Thank you, Ginny. I got your vote. Thanks.
Thanks.
I believe that's all you had on the agenda for tonight? That's all you had on, okay.
Yes.
HR, your next meeting is on 3/14/11, correct? Excellent. And you're not having any first reads or anything, so. Planning and communication, you want to briefly go over, because we did have a meeting today?
Yeah, we met tonight. We've got planned the 2 articles for the coming month. Obviously, we're going to be addressing the elections in March as far as the differences between the default budget and the budget, the proposed budget. Philip and I are going to work on another GTV show. I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch it, but we're going to move forward from the deliberative show to the elections and the March ballot. We have some signs over here that we're encouraging the PFT members and whatnot to take home. I think that's it.
Excellent.
We meet again first Monday of the next month.
C&E, your next meeting is on 3/14/11. There's nothing new to report from, and the superintendent report.
I did want to pass around, I got this today from Ava Lane, the Scholastic Art Awards. We actually did really well, and I've not gotten this before, but when you look at Goffstown High School for our art awards, compared to other fairly large high schools, it's quite impressive. We got 15 gold keys, 13 silver keys, and 20 honorable mentions. So I'll pass that around, you can look at names. Let's see, I did also want to let the board know I received notice from New Morning School that they have sold the business to another person. So nothing we need to do. I did inform Suzanne and David just to watch the program. They've said nothing's going to change, staff aren't going to change. But again, I just want to monitor that and make sure that nothing philosophically changes in what we do in our after-school programs. New Hampshire School Boards Association, if you have juniors and seniors scholarship awards, if you have kids as a senior, you can apply for the School Boards Association scholarship. I think everybody should get this mailed. If not, let me know. I can send you a copy of it. I think they offer, I think it's a pretty decent scholarship.
$1,000.
Is it? Okay, it doesn't say anywhere on here. No. Anyway, I have the applications. If you don't get one, let me know. I also went to a legislative update this morning, and just I'm going to give you a 30-second version of some of the legislation that's out there. They are, let's see, there's a bill out there to look to consolidate all of the SAUs in the state. There's a committee established to look at all of the voucher programs. Although there's a hearing coming up on a voucher, and interestingly, it's not going through the education committee, it's going through the tax section, because it's actually would be a tax abatement for anybody who doesn't have a child in the public schools. If you homeschool your child or you send them to a charter school or a private school, you would get a tax abatement on that. And it's interesting because some of the information that's out there is, well, wouldn't that open it up to anybody who then doesn't have kids in the schools? So that's a bill that's out there. It looks like Building Aid is going to come back with a recommendation for a moratorium on Building Aid until the 14-15 school year. So that's something the Facilities Committee will need to consider when we start to bring that back to the board level, what we're going to do there. Catastrophic aid is likely going to be funded at about 50% next year is what they're recommending or thinking. Vocational transportation and tuition is likely to be reduced. There's a bill for home education that's coming up for public hearing, I think on Tuesday, to reduce all oversight from public education. Right now we have to approve, somebody, either us, a private school, or the Department of Ed has to approve homeschool programs. This would take away any oversight by anybody. One of the things that we have pushed for, or the association and the School Boards Association has pushed for, is universal immunity against compensatory education if a child is homeschooled. Our fear in public education is there's a lot of good parents who homeschool their kids for great reasons, and they do a great job. And then there's a lot of parents who homeschool their kids for the wrong reasons. And our fear is that kids are going to be homeschooled for several years, show up on our doorstep, and parents are going to say, now you have to fix them in a year. And so one of the things we've tried to push forward in that legislation is to have some kind of immunity from school districts, that if a child is homeschooled and comes back to public school, that there's no guarantee we're going to fix what might have happened over the homeschool period of time. Let's see. The evergreen clause is predicted to go through. It's predicted to go through and either be signed or, if it's vetoed by the governor, be vetoed by the legislative body or passed through by the legislative body. They're looking to get that done before March. So the big question comes out is, what does that mean? The School Boards Association and the School Administrators Association is kind of saying that upon approval of that bill, any contract no longer has the evergreen in it. That unless there's specific language in your contract, we believe that the legal side of things will come out that if you have a current contract that was approved under evergreen, that it will stay evergreen until you renegotiate a new contract, and then it will go away. So it will likely be several legal opinions that come out on that, but that is likely to go through before March. So just some updates on that. And again, NECAP test scores, if I can't say it enough, we did really, really well at the high school, which again, it's at the high school, but you know what? They didn't get to 11th grade and learn it from, so they have had that education. We did score ranked 4th in the state in writing, 4th in the state in math, and 2nd in the state for reading. Very impressive scores. Actually, the superintendent in Bedford said to me this morning when I saw him, "Nice job." So I really do commend our faculty and staff for the efforts that they do put in from all the way from K to 12. So, and that's all I have.
Excellent. New business. We have to take a vote on whether to recommend or not recommend the budget for the warrant article for the ballot. And are you still with us, Sue? Susan? I think we lost Susan. We did lose Susan. You're still with us though, Ginny, right? Ginny?
Yes.
Okay, wanted to make sure you're still with us. We lost Susan on the connection, so.
Come on, no more Wheel of Fortune.
Alrighty. So, we need to actually take a vote on whether to recommend or not recommend our budget on the warrant article.
I'm making a motion to recommend.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
By Ken. Any questions or discussions? All right, all in favor of approving the budget as presented and recommend the budget as presented at deliberative session and approved at deliberative session? All right. Yes, if you vote yes, you're voting in favor. No, you're voting not to recommend it. So yes, 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 yes. Ginny?
Yes.
Against?
Yes.
No. You voted for it. You can't vote
Ginny,
against it too.
let me just stop. You're voting for it, correct?
I am.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Against it, abstained. We have one abstention. Motion passes 7-0-1.
Can I speak to it?
Yes, you may.
It's the same reason that I had last time. I wasn't in favor of the default budget, but I was not in favor of how far it increased as well, and I had wanted to see a compromise between, so.
Duly noted. That's fair. Alrighty. We actually need to schedule a second meeting in February.
If you want to have one. The second meeting is school vacation week. So it's the question whether the board would like to have a second meeting or not.
Please.
It's anticipation for business.
Yeah. Does anybody have any particular night they prefer? Because, I mean, obviously the 21st is vacation and some people will be away. Do you want to try to do it on a different night than Monday, or do you want to try to do it on the 28th or the 14th? Well, the 14th would be too soon.
because the 14th is the week after, next week. The
Yeah.
28th is the week before the March meeting.
Right.
So you'd be doing 2 back-to-backs, which is okay if you wanted to do that.
If that's satisfactory, we'll do the 28th unless somebody wants to. All right, 2/28 at 7 PM. And ESOL, Stacy has a presentation to do on that.
Yeah, I'm actually just bringing kind of a thought to the board, and I'm looking for your okay to go forward with it. Through our ESOL audit we had by the state, and I've asked for clarification and have gotten it, that technically when the paraeducator, we have a teacher and a paraeducator, when the paraeducator provides services, they don't really count towards the hours that we have to provide the student. It's all regulated. So if a student passes certain portions of the ESOL evaluation, or fails, or doesn't perform proficient in those areas, we have to provide so many hours, and it's all regulated how many hours that is. The paraeducator's hours don't count towards that. So what I'm looking to do, we actually have an opening right now for a paraeducator. So what we'd like to explore is the option of potentially moving that paraeducator into that position, so she's not losing her position, losing a job, and to advertise for potentially a part-time ESOL teacher, and see if we can garner somebody, not increasing any funds, but using the funds we have to hire a part-time teacher whose hours will actually count. Because right now we're providing services that don't really count towards anything other than helping a kid, but they don't count towards the legal hours we have to provide.
Can I ask
It's
a couple of
interesting.
questions?
Yeah.
When you say paraeducator, is that position or credentials?
That's position.
Okay. So is the requirement that the hours be associated with somebody a positional requirement
A s-
or a credential
credential
requirement?
requirement. They have to be a certified ESOL teacher.
Okay. So if, for instance, there was somebody out there who worked as a paraeducator and was certified, then those hours would count. Of course, finding that person may be a little difficult.
Yeah, I'd have to check on that. I don't know, because they would be in the role of a paraeducator, not a teacher.
Well, that's, and
Yeah.
again, that's why I sought to make
So
the
they
distinction
probably,
to
they probably at the teacher level go side by side.
My question really was sort
Yeah,
of a,
if we had-
what choices do we have here, based upon what the requirement is? And what drives the requirements?
The requirement is that it has to be a certified ESOL teacher. So I'm looking for kind of the okay from the board to explore the potential to advertise a potential part-time position, to see if there's even anybody out there who could do that. And again, we wouldn't be increasing the funds, we would be using the funds and just moving them from a para position to a teacher position. So we're thinking we could likely get maybe 2 days a week to do that. And at least it provides more ability to provide appropriate services that we should be providing, and gets a leg on what we had to put in a plan of improvement for.
Okay. And is this simply for the duration of this year?
Yeah, it would be at this point for the duration of this year, and then we had to put in a plan to how we're going to increase ESOL services over time. And we did indicate that with potential budget cuts, that it likely wasn't going to happen next year. So, but if we were able to find somebody part-time and they were willing to stay, we would likely move that with the board's permission to next year.
So you're just asking permission for this year.
Right, at this point. Just to actually, I would come back to the board with an answer. I guess I'm looking for permission to explore the opportunities. Is there somebody even out there that could potentially provide this service? We may advertise and get nobody, which means we're just gonna stay where we're at.
There's no motion needed, but if anybody has any concerns or questions, go ahead and ask them.
Just as we go forward, could we get a little, if the requirement is out there and easy for somebody like me to
I'll find that
digest, that'd be terrific. Thanks.
Excellent. All right. Any other legal business that needs to come before the board?
Can I just ask a question? As
Sure.
a Mountain View Middle School teacher rep, there was a couple comments that were made during the public session, and I just want to clarify so that if people ask me from the school tomorrow, I have the right information. You used the term grievances, and I wasn't sure if you meant like union contractual grievance, or if you meant the term complaint.
If you have an issue that's not a contractual issue, should the person still follow the same process that you would follow if you had a contractual grievance?
Yeah,
Or
our
is there a
policy-
separate issue, a separate system? Okay, that's the first thing I'd like to understand. Because not all the members at the middle school are union members.
Yep.
So not all of them can necessarily follow the grievance system.
Yeah, in fairness to you, why don't we put together something that will, instead of doing this off the top of our collective head, which always creates enormous pitfalls, if the superintendent's office would put together the materials that will be useful and responsive to your inquiry.
Because that was my next question, if someone could supply me with that
Yeah,
information.
sure.
That
Yeah.
way, when people come to me, I can say to them, this is the proper channel for you to go.
Yeah, and policy KEB does talk to that to some effect as well.
AB,
KEB.
KEB.
Yeah.
I will check that one out. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing none, we actually, unless you have one?
Or where are we at in our agenda?
Other business that may become, may come before, legally come before the board?
I do.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. If there's a second, then I'll be happy to speak to it. The motion that I'd like to make is that the board, going forward, direct the administration when they are issuing tuition bills to the sending districts, that they do so consistent with the past budget that we see in March. So next year, when the tuition bills are issued, my motion is to direct the administration to issue the bills to the sending districts based upon the budget that is passed in March for that year going forward. But I need a second if we want to chat about it.
Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Anybody have questions or discussions on it?
There are a couple of reasons, if I may speak to the motion. There are a couple of reasons for doing so. One is that in the long run, it has absolutely no bearing on what we receive from the sending districts. Two, it will effectively end something that has been an issue over which I don't believe there's any clear right or wrong, and there is no consequence to the solution. These are folks who showed up at our meeting from the sending districts and provided the support of being there, although I don't know whether any of them spoke, which is just a highlight as opposed to a reason. And it also allows us to avoid making any changes in a document, because this would be a unilateral action of this board simply directing the superintendent, and would not require any changes or approval of any changes in that document. And I suspect that it might make sense, if it gets that far, to make this something that you renewed annually. And that way, the board would always preserve the decision-making over how that billing occurs and what the billing is based on.
So you're talking about the tuition bills that go out in June?
No,
They go out
once a
successfully.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
First one's in October, last one's in March.
And we recently changed that practice?
We have not.
We have not changed
We
that
have not
practice.
changed anything. The AREA agreement speaks to it. The AREA agreement, when everybody sat down, looked at the superintendent's budget as being the barometer.
Right. And we didn't just address this?
It was
What
brought up at
passed?
a SAU board meeting.
Okay.
It was a
And,
contentious
I
and,
remember.
item.
and the motion came back before this board. And I'm not dealing with the motion that came back before the board. I'm making a motion that has to do with the administration to act on behalf of this board in issuing bills.
Anybody else have any questions on it or comments?
So pretty much, the motion is to build them based on the actual amount that we have for the year?
Correct.
For the, whatever passes in March,
In March,
Yeah.
that would be what the bill is
That makes
based
sense
on.
to me.
Yeah, no number, yeah.
But
Right.
we decided
I mean,
to do that.
Huh?
We haven't.
Nope. We haven't.
I thought that was.
It's based upon the superintendent's budget. Superintendent's proposed budget right now is what the contract says, the SAU area agreement. All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ginny? Ginny?
Yes.
Yes.
In favor.
Okay. Motion, against, abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. 8-0-0. All right, any other legal business to bring in front of the board? Yes.
I have something that I'd like to bring up for discussion, not
Sure.
necessarily for a vote tonight, but it's Kearsarge Regional Middle School does blizzard bags, which are basically homework in a bag. And I have a link that I can send out. I know I've addressed you and Stacy, but I think that we should bring it up as a discussion as a board, as to see if it's something that we could at least look at for next year.
If I can,
Lisa,
Keith,
I'm sorry.
I got a question. Jen, is that the like an classroom that I've been hearing about? There's some schools are doing an availability online for classwork.
no, the
also
only
to
school
kind of
district
address
who's
that?
doing it is Kearsarge.
That's it for this particular?
I actually brought this up, and I think I sent you an email. I brought this up in the beginning of the year when we got the regulations from the state on what it looked like to do this. I met with the principals, we reviewed the regulations. Not one administrator felt at this point in time that we wanted to go there. It puts a huge burden on parents. There's a couple of pieces to the puzzle. One is we have to guarantee that every one of our staff is 100% online. We have to guarantee that 80% of our students have access to internet. There's then requirements for participation. If you don't get participation, it doesn't count as a day. One of our administrators' conversation was around shifting the burden of education over to a parent, and what happens when the parent's working and the babysitter now has to own education, and that whole piece of it. That instruction wasn't the same. I didn't have one administrator out of the 7 buildings we have who was interested in doing it.
I went through the minutes. I didn't see the discussion in the minutes on that, so.
It was probably under my superintendent's report.
Okay.
I want to say it was like September. It was one of the first meetings we had.
I'll go back.
And this is not, because you said something about e-learning, I seem to remember seeing something, I can't remember whether it was newspaper, NHSBI, I can't remember what the source was, that basically discussed using e-learning and had the same kind of parameters around it.
Yeah, as a substitute for
I
that.
mean, I can send you the DOE's, what their requirements are for it. But it wasn't something that administrators felt ready to go to, or to even look at that point.
Is it fair to say that you could do something like this and then tell the 65% of the students who participated, I'm sorry, you don't
doesn't
get credit for
count.
the day. Thanks for your effort, great, you benefited from doing it, but we still need to hear June 30th.
Right. And,
Okay.
and we've only, I mean, at this moment, now we have some winter left. We've used 4 snow days, which is not unreasonable. I mean, it seems like more, but we've only used 4 snow days, which is, we're on Thursday.
back to back.
You know, the Department of Ed requires us to have 10. Snow days are snow days. Not something new.
Can I just ask a question? How did they perceive the work sent home in the blizzard bag as more responsibility for the parent than homework that was sent home?
Because they would be required to actually do a whole day. It was supposed to equate to a day of school.
But they don't do a whole day of school of academics. I mean, if you're talking about hours-wise,
Right, but you'd still
Right.
require up to a certain amount of time, and somebody at home has to own that. Helping the
wouldn't
student.
the work dictate whether the child owned it or not? I mean, if the child came back with the work, wouldn't that say to me as the teacher, Susie spent 20 seconds on this, I can tell by looking at it, or this was a 2-hour project,
Oh,
and Susie
definitely.
put 2 hours into
Definitely.
it. So
But
I guess
it's-
I don't understand how it falls on the parents. To me, it doesn't fall on the parents any more than a child coming home and doing their homework.
But it's still something that's now owned by whom? I guess there wasn't an administrator who supported it, so I spoke to the board about it. We can certainly look at it. There's a reason why only Kearsarge is doing it.
What's the general consensus? Do you want to put that on a future agenda?
I would like to.
Well, could we get the
Yep, I can send you out
administration
the, yep, I can send you out
a little more
the
background
regulations of what they
information.
talked about doing.
I
Thank
want
you.
to search it now, I can't search it.
Okay. We'll leave it on the list of things to possibly add to an agenda. We'll discuss it briefly next week, next meeting on that.
And I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't be something that you have to rush on, because you wouldn't institute it likely. We have to do a survey to guarantee that 80% of our students have access, so
Did you find it,
we'd have to
Diane?
figure all that out. It wouldn't be something you'd even look to do till next year,
Right.
so.
Did you find it, Diane?
No, no, but you know what, I'm not really getting any.
We actually need to go into non-public to discuss a personnel matter. So under RSA 91A-32E, I believe this is B, to discuss a specific personnel matter. Can I have a motion to go into non-public, please? Seconded by Ken. I need to do a roll call. Hank? Ken? Yeah. All right, we're officially in non-public.